in the modern era, it is extended to members of the upper class generally. Sometimes even women, no, not even women.
Yeah, even women.
Even women, can you believe that? Welcome to today's episode of Bridgerton Life, Duels in Regency, England.
This was requested by Ryan from Crafting Cocktails and Stuff.
A duel is a pre-arranged engagement between two people with matching weapons and pre-arranged rules.
The word itself comes from the Latin term duellum, a contraction of duo, two, and bellum, war.
Duels in this form were primarily practiced in early modern Europe, in accordance with the medieval code of chivalry. They continued into the late 19th century, especially among military officers.
In November 1712, in Hyde Park, London, James Hamilton, 4th Duke of Hamilton, and Charles Mohun, 4th Baron Mohun, fought a duel over a disputed inheritance. Both men died from wounds received.
The duel was based on a code of honour. Duels were fought not so much to kill the opponent, but to gain satisfaction. In other words, to restore one's honour by demonstrating a willingness to risk one's life for it.
Consequently, the tradition of duelling was the preserve of male members of the nobility.
However, in the modern era, it is extended to members of the upper class generally. Sometimes even women, no, not even women.
Yeah, even women.
Even women, can you believe that? However, in the modern era, it is extended to members of the upper class generally. On occasions, duels were fought between women.
Legislation against duelling goes back to the medieval period. From the early 17th century, duels were to become illegal. Duelling largely fell out of favour in England by the mid-19th century.
In Britain, to kill in the course of a duel was judged as murder. However, the courts were very lax in applying the law because they were sympathetic to the code of honour.
Duels did not normally happen spontaneously.
They didn't what?
Spontaneously. Duels didn't not offer, no, shoot, God, get a grip. Okay, la 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 la. Duels did not usually happen spontaneously. One man would often offer a challenge to another, and he would then direct the matter to his second, who would take things further.
A second was a friend who came along to help prepare the weapons, to ensure that the other duelist didn't ambush you, and to make sure that the rules of the duel were being followed.
Seconds were supposed to defuse the situation that led to the duel, and to try and get an apology from one or the other. In truth, seconds often ended up fighting each other alongside the main duelists.
The person who was challenged has the right to choose his own weapon. However, the person who did the challenging can decline the weapon suggested.
Previously, duels were mostly fought with swords, but from the late 18th century in England, duels were more commonly fought using pistols. Special sets of dueling pistols were crafted for the wealthiest of noblemen for this purpose.
Dueling pistols are made in identical matching pairs to put both duelists on the same footing.
Purpose-built dueling pistols have various improvements to make them more reliable and accurate.
Dueling pistols have long and heavy barrels. The added weight helps steady aim and reduce recoil. The barrels were later given blued or brownish finish to reduce glare.
Other features were saw handles, sounds like fork handles, platinum-lined touch holes and hair triggers.
All this meant that dueling pistols were much more costly than standard firearms of the period.
At the choice of the offended party, the duel could be fought to different conclusions.
To first blood, in which case the duel would be ended as soon as one man was wounded, even if the wound was minor.
until one man was so significantly injured that he was unable to continue with the duel.
To the death, in which case there would be no satisfaction until one man was mortally wounded.
Each party would fire one shot. If neither man was hit and the challenger declared he was satisfied, then the duel would be over.
If the challenger was not satisfied, a pistol duel could continue until one man was wounded or killed. But to have more than 3 exchanges of fire was considered barbaric, and, on the rare occasion that no hits were achieved, somewhat ridiculous.
Under the latter conditions, one or both parties could intentionally miss in order to fulfill the conditions of the duel without loss of either life or honour. However, this was known as deloping, and it could imply that one's opponent was just not worth shooting.
The offended party could stop the duel at any time, if he deemed his honour was satisfied. The second would also act as a witness.
By 1840, duelling had declined dramatically. When the 7th Earl of Cardigan was acquitted on a technicality for killing his opponent in the duel, there was outrage in the media. This led to the view in England that there was one rule for the rich and another for the poor. The Examiner described the verdict as a defeat of justice.
The last fatal duel by Englishmen in England occurred in 1845. This happened when James Alexander Seton had an altercation with Henry Hawkley over the affections of his wife.
However, the last fatal duel to occur in England was between 2 French political refugees. One of the men were killed and the other served 7 months in prison.
During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, dueling became a sport in which shooters fired at each other using non-lethal rounds.
Participants wore heavy protective clothing and a metal helmet, similar to a fencing mask, but with an eye screen of thick glass.
Thank you very much to Ryan from Crafting Cocktails and Stuff for this wonderful video suggestion. If you have something you'd like to know about Bridgerton Life, drop it in the comments below and we could make a video about it and give you a shout out.
Thank you for watching.
Bye!